Crowhill here. Today we drink a cocktail and discuss Texas. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Good evening, Pigweed.
Good evening, Crowhill.
And good evening, Longinus.
Yes.
What's on your mind, Pigweed?
Civil War.
Civil War. I thought the show was about Texas.
Well, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know Texas and the Civil War, but
Yeah.
Texas joined the Confederacy in 1861, but I can't think of any major battles there.
No, not yet.
Okay.
How about this? The Battle of Shelby Park. Or wait a minute. I like the Battle of Eagle Pass. That one has a good ring to it.
Ah, I see. It sounds like it's time for Nooze and Booze with Pigweed and Crowhill.
Yes, that's why we have booze here, because this show isn't really about current headlines.
Right.
But sometimes something pops up that is so good we just have to comment.
I see. That's right. And for this show, the news is Texas and the coming Civil War, and the booze is the razor wire cocktail.
Razor wire.
Razor wire cocktail.
Appropriate.
Yes.
All right. Well, so
All
what
right.
is going on here?
This is a combination of mango-flavored vodka,
Okay.
rum, lime juice, triple sec, and orange-flavored liqueur, bitter orange-flavored liqueur.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, kids out
It's a
there.
complicated cocktail.
Yes, it's been
And if you
dubbed.
want the recipe, write the show, pigweedshow@gmail.com.
And
we'll
ask
give you the recipe.
for the razor wire.
Ask for the razor wire. That's correct. All right, so this topic, I knew that we were going to be doing this topic. I had to take a couple of relaxers ahead of time because this one has made me angry for like the past 15 years.
Yes.
You know, I've been frustrated and angry about the way we're dealing with immigration for so long that, I mean, it would be nice if I was numb to it, but I'm not. It still makes me angry every single time.
Well,
So I'm going to try not to get angry.
Well, now that we have a conservative Supreme Court, did that help at all?
No.
No.
I don't even know that we have a conservative Supreme Court, but no, it is not helped.
You've got Squishy Roberts,
Yeah.
and now you've got what's her name going over to the dark side. So this
Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah.
yes. So there's just one. There's this little section in poor little Eagle Pass, Texas, which is mostly Mexican American. And it is a place, there's a major crossing at Shelby Park, and they said, you know what, we're going to put up 2 miles of containers and razor wire.
Well, let's put.
How long is that? You've got 2,000 miles.
Yeah, so let's put a little context on this. There are, I think, 28 legitimate entry points from Mexico, and I think it's 28. I'm not sure.
Yes. The border patrol has become a taxi service.
Yes.
A processing center.
But there
for
are
any
legitimate
amount of
places. There are legitimate places where you can cross the Rio Grande.
Yes, that's also terrible. But at the very least, but the point is,
Those
if
are
you
under
want to turn
control.
yourself over to the federal government, that's the border patrol, and then there are places to do
That's
that.
the approved
and this
place.
is a town,
Right.
and this is a park. And have you seen the thing on the other side of these containers? There's a golf course.
Yeah, right.
All right.
So here you have all these, like if you want to come from Mexico and the United States, there are, I think it's 28 places where you can legitimately come in, be processed, say I'm filing for asylum, or
You'll be
whatever
given
it
a
is.
bus ticket and a sandwich and whatever else.
Whatever it is,
No
there are
questions asked.
There are legitimate places where you can do that. But there are also places where the coyotes and the Mexican cartels have just identified other spots where they've said, no, we're just going to send a whole bunch of people here.
Right, and these are most likely why would you not go to the processing center when it's safe and easy and run the risk? That's because
Maybe because you have a pocket full of fentanyl.
because you're somebody that we don't want in the country.
Yeah.
So Texas says, all right, for these sections, we're going to put up some razor wire, this 2-mile section on the 2,000-mile border, and the federal government's not having it.
Yeah. And
Wait a minute, how can you possibly want to slow down the millions, what are we up to, 4 million, 9 million people in 4 years?
I think somewhere between 5 and 9 million people have come in under Biden's watch.
Right, which is greater than the population of like 15 of our states.
So this reminds me of back during the Obama presidency when Arizona tried to pass a law to basically the idea is the federal government is supposed to control immigration. And the reason for that is relatively simple. That because we have free movement between the states, right? Like I can go from Maryland to Pennsylvania to Virginia without anybody bothering me, right? I can just go anywhere I want within the United States without anybody bothering me. So the idea of coming into the United States has to be controlled at the federal level because we don't want Virginia bringing in a bunch of people who then flood Maryland, right? You don't want that kind of...
We want all 50 states to have different policies on most things.
Yeah. But not on this. The idea is once you're in the United States, you can go wherever you want because nobody's checking my papers at the border, right? So the concept is the federal government is supposed to control immigration. Now, the federal government is not controlling immigration. So Arizona, back in 2010, something like that, passed some laws saying that if Arizona finds you in the state and you're not supposed to be here, that they can turn you over to ICE or whatever it was.
Right.
Now, that got shot down by this allegedly conservative Supreme Court.
Well,
it wasn't as conservative.
No, it was yes. It was left leaning. But
yes.
Go ahead.
So what happened was Arizona was saying, "Look, the federal government's not doing its job, so we're going to try to do some of that ourselves." And the court shot that down. Said, "No, it's exclusively the prerogative of the federal government to control immigration."
Right, and the state said, "Okay, then do it," and they said, "Well, we're not going to do it."
Exactly.
Right. So again, we've got this. This is our purview here. All right. Well, then do it. Mm-hmm. Well, we're not. And so that was back then. In this case, this Supreme Court. Now it sounded more terrible than it actually was because it was narrowly referring to just this location and just the razor wire, and the fact that it doesn't say that Texas has to take down the razor wire.
Right.
You just can't stop the feds from taking down the razor wire.
Yeah, so
it was narrower than you think, but it's still
It's actually very narrow, and a lot of the news.
And they say this is not done yet.
Yeah, a lot of the news is portraying this as if Texas is defying the Supreme Court or Texas is doing something illegal, but all Texas is doing is putting up razor wire, and that's perfectly legal. There's nothing illegal about that. What the decision from the Supreme Court is that the federal government has the right to cut the razor wire in order to do their job. Like if, for example, a bunch of federal agents are standing there and somebody is drowning in the Rio Grande, and they have to cut the razor wire to go rescue the person, they're allowed to do that. That's basically all.
But that's not going on. They have access right now. They're restricting the access to all of the land crossings, but there's a boat ramp there.
Yeah,
and the federal government does have access to that boat boat ramp. Mm-hmm. So my God, one area tries to do one thing, and the federal government's got to go, "No, you're not."
You can't do that. So this raises so many questions.
Yes, it is blood boiling.
It raises so many. Yes, it is blood boiling, and I'm trying very hard. The cocktail is helping. I'm trying very hard to not let my blood boil because this makes me very, very angry.
Who brought the lunch on us? You have to bring the Xanax.
The Xanax would be helpful. That's right. So the question I'm always struggling with is what is the motivation of the Biden administration, the Obama administration, the Democratic Party, and to some extent the Republican Party? What is their motivation in allowing this trampling of our border?
Because this has been going
on for 50 years.
This has been the top one or two concerns of every poll since the Reagan administration.
Right.
And no matter who's in charge,
they still do it.
I know.
So what in the world is motivating this?
Yes.
And so I can imagine what some of them are. One alleged motivation is there are jobs in the United States that American workers won't do, so we need to import other people who will do those jobs.
So listen, right? So this is the conservative Chamber of Commerce argument that it keeps wages low. Mm-hmm. And you have people, right? Because if nobody wants to do landscaping work, then in order to get them to do it, you got to pay them $30 an hour. Yeah. And so
it's basically a supply and demand thing. If labor is too expensive, you bring in more workers, and the price of labor goes down. So that's good in a sense for industry because now they can hire cheap laborers, but it's not good for workers in the United States because it's driving their wages down.
It's driving their wages down. But if they're then what you would do is increase the number of legal immigrants that come through.
Exactly.
Because the illegal immigrants are going to be exploited by other immigrants.
Yes.
By the Latinos that run the landscaping crew. They're the ones that are ripping off.
Exactly.
They're underpaying the illegal immigrants because they don't have any protection. There's no one for them to go to.
If we decide that we need more workers in the United States, if we say we need more workers, fine. Change the number of people who come in legally.
Yes,
Say, we're not bringing enough. Okay, raise the number, but do it according to the law.
Yes, it's sort of like the seasonal migrant workers to pick the thing. It should be a system where the Nebraska slaughterhouse or the Maryland Eastern Shore chicken people can go to whoever and say, look, we don't have enough people. We
need 1,000 people.
We need 1,000 people. Can you issue visas for these 1,000 people so that we can have the workers to get the
Right.
I mean, we can do something like that.
I have no objection to that. If we need more workers to do work, fine. Then change the law or issue whatever you need to do so that they come in legally through a legitimate process, and then you have your workers. Why not do that? But something is motivating mostly the Democratic Party, but to some extent both parties.
Well, I would say that. All right, let's just take. All right, that was we've done the conservative.
That's the conservative argument,
the Conservative Chamber of Commerce.
We need agriculture workers.
Okay, let's see. So what's the then there are two possibilities on the left.
Well, at least two. One is, the United States is an evil place, and that we have all this money because we're evil and we've exploited people. We have to make up for that by allowing
obligation
people
to the third world that we have exploited. It's all that colonialism, leftism.
Exactly. So we need to allow other people to come in and share the wealth with them. So that's one argument. Another argument is, we need to import. Barack Obama wanted to fundamentally transform America. He said, there's something wrong with America. You're not voting for the socialist policies that I want. So let's change America.
Yes,
and bring in
because your bread and butter Joe Lunchpail, the Democrat voter for the last 50 years,
doesn't agree with all this stuff.
Yes, right. So these guys aren't on board with the trans agenda. Well, this is actually pre-trans agenda, but
right, but with the left agenda of Obama and then of Biden.
So we're going to abandon those people, and we need to replace them with somebody.
Yeah.
So we'll just import voters because.
And the funny thing is that they assume that these people that they're importing are going to vote their way, which doesn't actually turn out to be the case all the time. But still, anyway.
Or the idea. So, like I said, Equal Pass. As far as all of the interviews that I saw, everybody there is Mexican.
Yeah.
The idea that you're going to get Latino voters, third generation Mexicans who don't even speak Spanish anymore, are going to go, yeah, we're on board with
the trans agenda.
No, with open borders. It's like, they're letting my people in.
Right.
They're
not.
They don't think that way. No. And by the third generation, if you're a business owner,
people who come into the country legally are very much against allowing people coming in legally. Who
come here, work hard, and start businesses, and then start paying taxes, and then they realize, I'm not sure that the Democratic Party actually is on my side, and they think that with you, by bringing in Latinos, you get Democrats for life.
And right, that's the assumption.
And that the Latinos that are already here are going to reward you for open borders. Yeah. Because, their great lost cousin might be able to come in or something. Yeah. So I think that's a miscalculation.
But if
you just bring them in by the millions.
Yeah. But even at that, okay, even if you wanted to say that we need to bring in millions of people. Whatever.
Well, hold on. Because you want voters?
For whatever reason. Whatever your reason is for bringing millions of people into the country. I don't care what it is. whatever your reason is, change the law so that they come in legally. Why bring them in illegally?
But that's what they've been trying to do since the Reagan era, right?
No, because they haven't changed the limits on how many people are allowed to come in legally.
Because nobody has the guts to change it.
Right. So what they do is they allow people to come in illegally, which is just crazy. It's unlawful. It's like
they're unvetted.
The executive.
The thing is, you don't know who. I'm willing to crank up the number of people who come in as long as we know who they are, that they're not terrorists, that they don't have diseases, that they're not drug dealers, that they're not molesters.
Right.
Can't we find out? Can't we know who these people are? You've got these aren't Mexicans coming across the Mexican border. This is all. These are people from around the world who go to Mexico, pay $10,000 to cartel,
and take this perilous journey.
And which used to be they used to take you to your city of choice. Now all you have to do is take them to the border, and the U.S. government will take them to their city of choice.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. And okay, so let's think for just a minute about what damage this is causing to cities all over the country. Because
I do want to have a counter argument to that, because cities were always relying on immigration to fill its population. There was always that generational change that occurred, and it was always the immigrants that lived, and they came in and they worked, and they did the shit labor,
right?
And then the next generation of those people became Americans, and
right.
Maybe they were educated, and so there was that.
But during
now it's slammed out.
But during that time, there was no welfare state. So now, you came over here. You came over here. You went through Ellis Island, and you're on your own.
Yeah.
But now. I'm just talking about blood's boiling. Now it's taxpayer funds that aren't going to poor American communities. They're now going to illegal immigrants who aren't even supposed to be here. You can file to come in, and we can check out who you are and make sure that you're not a terrorist or a rapist or a drug dealer. And then we'll bring you in, but not by the millions, not 5,000 a day. Which this is the compromise. This is what's on the table right now. They're like, all right, we've got a bill for you here, the Democrats. How about this? We'll do 5,000 a day, and we'll cut it off there. And that's you're about 1 million people a year.
So I guess the question for me is, yes, there was a time in American history where we had factories and other kinds of we needed to fill jobs, so people came over here. It wasn't a welfare state. We didn't guarantee them school for their children. We didn't guarantee them a place to stay. We didn't guarantee them food, any of that kind of stuff. They came here, they had to work, but we actually had jobs for them to do.
And but do we now have jobs?
No.
We have
in some places agricultural jobs.
Agricultural jobs, chicken jobs.
Right. Yeah, but
not in Chicago,
in New York
not
City.
in New York City.
Sure.
So,
I mean, don't you?
Because New York City can't deal with. New York City is getting like 5%
because of the social benefit. Well, I won't say social benefits, but because of the social programs.
Yeah.
But if you got them, but there are probably jobs out there. I mean, the more people you have, the more you can grow your economy, the more jobs you create.
Then why are New York and Chicago
that may be haywire and imbalanced right now.
Yeah,
but,
well, it certainly is, because New York and Chicago are bellyaching about it. They're saying we can't deal with all these people
because they're putting up in hotels.
I know. So you have
you can't afford that.
Once again, it gets back to this question of, if you need people to do jobs, if you're New York, if you're Chicago, and you need some number of people to come in and do work in McDonald's, work in hotels, work in whatever it is, okay, fine. So then you go to the government and you say, we need this number of people, and you bring in that number of people. But what's happening right now is we have this uncontrolled mass of people coming in that New York can't handle, Chicago can't handle, Texas can't handle. And it's just a total mess.
Oh, you're right. Everything's broken about this system, and it's been broken for a long time. But now it's a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, let's get back to the Civil War.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Civil War.
I'm going to cut my beard the right way.
You can get some mutton chops. If So if the Border Patrol Union has already said that they back the policy, but they're feds. They work for the federal government. The federal government says, I want you to go in there and cut them down the razor wire, and the Texas National Guard or local police force says you're not coming into this park.
What's going to happen?
These guys are not, and they say you have the authority because the feds supersede the states. You have the authority to arrest those guys.
Yes.
I want you to go in there and arrest them.
So we have had some situations.
This ain't happening. We're not doing it.
We have had some situations in America where federal and state authority has come to a head. The Civil War is an obvious example. When forced integration of schools was an example.
Well,
after Brownlee Board of Education.
Right. That is when the Fed, even though it's called a National Guard, it's the states. It's a Texas National Guard.
Yes.
Right. But the feds, with a certain amount of emergency, declaration of emergency, can federalize the National Guard of the state.
They can. In certain limited cases. That's right. But
and you're right. They did that in Baltimore in 2015.
And are they going to do that over a 2-mile stretch of parkland in one town?
So here's the thing.
Well, go ahead.
Here's the thing that's weird about that, because yes, Biden could federalize the Texas National Guard.
Yeah.
However, the problem is, on the one hand, he has to play to his base, and he has to play to the political elite, because basically it's only the radical left and the political elite in Washington who want this open borders, everybody coming in. The vast majority of Americans don't want it; they want it to control it. So if Biden were to federalize the Texas National Guard, that would kill his reelection possibilities.
Exactly. Because so there's this long-term strategy. Well, if you're going to buy into somewhat of the replacement theory, but are you willing to do that at the expense? I forgot my printout here. It's here somewhere. Anyway, 69% of people are with Texas. We've got 25 state governors that are with Texas. Is it worth it to Biden? What kind of position is he in? Yeah. There's no electoral benefit.
He's in a very bad position. If he were to try to federalize the National Guard, I think that would guarantee a loss in the election.
Yes, and to do what? To allow an extra 1,000 people to come through that can just go down, that can walk a mile away and come in through the proper access point.
Right. Yeah. So the issue here is that the federal government refuses to enforce. Okay. So,
right. They say this is our.
It's in our purview. Okay,
right.
and that's fine. There are things that are state issues, and there are things that are federal issues. That's completely true, and that's fine. And the states shouldn't interfere with federal issues. The federal shouldn't interfere with state issues. That's all fine. The situation here is that the federal government is refusing to follow the laws and to enforce the federal laws. Now, that has severe consequences for Texas, and now because Governor Abbott had the sense to start busing people to New York and Chicago.
Yeah, well, that's because because the national media is not going to report on this until they bring the crisis to their front steps. Mm-hmm. And so, in a way, I hate that you're shipping people to the interior. But what are you going to do? Make Texas border towns suffer? Well, send them to the sanctuary cities who said that they're 100% welcome. Hold on, I have a question though, in terms of who has jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. How about when ICE says, hey, we know you've got this guy in jail. When you're done with him, let us know because we're going to deport that guy.
Right. And
they deliberately do not do it.
Yeah.
So there's state defying.
They're deliberately not.
That's state, but that's state defying federal law. So your argument that this that the state has no control over its own border. Well, you've just decided that states can trump federal law. All these people are trying to do. The states are not trying to make new immigration policy. They're just trying to protect the citizens of their own state.
Yes.
And that's all the razor wire.
Yeah, and it does come back to this. So Texas has declared that they're being invaded.
It does. So in the Constitution, it really does come down to the word, to definition of the word invasion.
So that's going to be a tricky one.
Yes, that's
because that passage in the Constitution that talks about the state being able to defend itself against invasion really has to do with, all of a sudden the British are landing in New Hampshire and
Santa Ana and the Mexicans come across the border.
Exactly.
You don't have to wait for the federal troops to come in.
Yes.
The Texas Rangers can take care of it.
Yes, that's talking mostly of like an armed invasion.
So by a sovereign country.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's still an armed invasion where the question is going to be, is this kind of an invasion where just people are coming across? They're not armed. They're not carrying weapons, at least as far as we know.
But the argument would be, which apparently they didn't make it very well, is that it is a threat to Texas citizens.
Well, it certainly is, because what if you have an armed invasion, people coming across with AK-47s? Obviously, you have a right to stop them.
Yeah.
Okay. But what if you have a huge mass of people who are coming across and they're going to trespass on people's property? They're going to steal things. They're going to rape people, or not all of them, of course, but some percentage of them will. So is that also an invasion? That's going to be a more tricky legal constitutional point.
Right. But I think that's why it works there, because at least when you go through the border checkpoint, apparently they're finding hundreds of thousands of IDs. So 100 feet before the border, everybody throws their IDs away.
Really?
And then they come in. So you don't really know who they are.
Huh.
But at least they're being processed to the point where I don't know if they take a blood sample or a DNA swab
how do they
whatever,
know they are?
Whatever. Yeah. How do you know they are? But at least they're kind of being processed, and there's at least a picture taken of them, and when they came in and what they look, whatever. At least there's something. But all this is. What about those locations where they're just storming across the getaways? You don't have a right to stop those people.
Yeah. The whole thing is crazy, and the reason it makes my blood boil is because we have laws. We have a way to address these things. The Congress is supposed to pass laws, and then the federal government is supposed to enforce those laws. And the federal government has refused to enforce those laws for decades. And now it's to the point...
And if you don't, and just because you don't like the laws, you say, well, you guys haven't changed the laws in a way that I think is going to solve this problem, therefore we're not going to follow the law. That's just not how it works.
Yeah,
but is that a reason to break the law? Right? Because I mean,
who's breaking the law?
Well, we don't know yet. But if does the state have the legal right to do something?
Supposedly everything Texas has done so far is completely legal. They can put up razor wire anywhere they want. There's nothing. Texas hasn't done anything illegal.
So what's going to the Supreme Court?
Well, what?
So they said that the federal government has the right to cut it down, but Texas is just standing there going, "All right, if you cut it down, we're just going to replace it."
Yeah.
So that's where that's the stand. No, that's where we are now. The Supreme Court is yes, the federal government has the right to cut down the razor wire. Did not say anything about Texas replacing the razor wire. So that's why it was very narrow, and so. Yeah. But they're not really going to do it.
It wasn't helpful.
And it's not. So it's not going to change anything. And it's also going to. It's just ratcheting up the tension. And there is no way that the federal border guard is going to draw arms on Texas law agents and get the kind of battle of Eagle Pass that I'm alluded to earlier.
So,
it ain't happening. They are going to support their local law enforcement and.
So is a deal going to be struck? And is that deal going to make this problem maybe not go away, but a wee bit better?
Well, there's some further litigation on this matter, and we'll see. What I hope comes out of it is that there is some major litigation, and that it rewrites how immigration, the relationship between the feds and the states on terms of immigration. That it gives more power to the states in this matter, not for deportation, but for securing its own borders.
See, my perspective on this is that the rot is so incredibly deep that I don't see
the rot in the federal government, the rot in Texas, the rot
in the federal government, because the Biden administration and other administrations before the Biden administration have refused to do their job, which is to execute the laws, to faithfully implement the laws of the United States of America.
Yeah.
That's their job. It's the executive branch. They're supposed to execute the laws. They have not been doing that for the longest time. And the remedy to that is for Congress to impeach them, to do something, right? That is the remedy. Yes. And the problem is that it's like the entire federal government, the entire federal bureaucracy is going along with this scam.
Right, but we've been talking about comprehensive immigration reform since the Reagan administration.
Right, but see, okay, whatever comprehensive immigration reform means,
it always means the massive amnesty for the illegal immigrants, for rewarding millions of people for breaking the law coming in here. That is always at the bottom line. Like, all right, I got an idea. Let's do this. We legalize everybody that's already here, 20 million people, and then we'll give you this. Well, but then the other side's like, well, that's not a comprehensive solution. Yes, it is. Well,
but even at that, I mean, even given that, I agree with you that that's a crappy solution. But even given that, the real problem is that we have laws that are not being enforced, that the federal government refuses to enforce.
Yes.
And that's just wrong, and there's supposed to be a solution to that, and nothing is happening. The solution to the federal government not enforcing the law is that the Congress is supposed to provide oversight or do something, step in, impeach somebody, whatever it is, and none of that is happening. The entire federal apparatus is okay with this lawless situation, and that doesn't sit well with me.
Because they just had the one in what was it? Was it New York? Yeah, right. So they go into an already put upon poor black neighborhood, Minnesota, Boston, and say, oh, this community center that used to be for the people in the neighborhood,
right.
No, now it houses now we're going to put in 300 beds. No one's allowed to come in here.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's not in the governor's neighborhood, right? It's not in any of the politicians' neighborhoods where these. So and go ahead.
And then you also have this problem, like in Chicago. There was this issue in Chicago where people who live in these poor neighborhoods are saying, look, here are these people coming in illegally, and you're giving them a phone, you're giving them a place to live, you're giving them money, you're giving them food. Why aren't we getting phones and money and food and places to live?
That's why I it's not a liberal voting election year win.
It doesn't seem like it's an election year win, but you were about to say something.
No, I mean, it goes. I mean, are those people seeking asylum that gets over there? I mean, like if you take a bus of illegal immigrants, are those the ones that are processed?
Yes,
and
those are the ones that
waiting.
They say we're seeking asylum.
Right.
Well, they're going, which means what? My country is too dangerous. Well, you're moving to Baltimore. You're moving to Chicago. It's more dangerous than the city you just left. So I don't know if that qualifies. But so how the previous administration? Well, we're going to do this. Give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Was that? Yeah, you make your claim in Mexico. We'll investigate it, and then we'll let you know. Or you have to show a preponderance of evidence that life is too dangerous for you to live there.
Yeah.
And now it's just all you have to do is say so. And then it's like, all right, well, then come back. Here's your court date 3 years from now. And welcome to the interior of the United
But
States.
The thing that bothers me the most about this is let's say that we wanted to give a place of refuge for all the people in the world who live in a terrible situation. Okay, let's just say that that was our policy.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, that's stupid because half the people in the world live in a crappy place, and we can't take half the people in the world.
Yeah, anybody who thinks that their life would be better in America than where you're living right now, come in.
Yeah,
is that a policy?
That's half the world.
Is that a policy?
Yeah, no, but even if that were the policy, even if it would be stupid, but even if that were the policy, okay, pass a stinking law. That's the thing. That's the thing about it that irritates me the most.
And you still have to come through and make sure that you don't have tuberculosis. Yes. You don't have right. You're not already a convicted rapist in your own country. Yes. Can we just find out 2 or 3 things about you?
Do it legally.
Can we get your name, give you a social security number, and put you on paper or something?
Do it legally in an orderly, reasonable manner. That's.
But aren't they doing that? Well, maybe not legal. Well, they're doing it legally, but in an orderly manner. Aren't they doing that for a certain amount of folks?
For some percentage of them, what they're doing.
Yeah, but, what do you think? So what do you think? So we have legal immigration, right?
We do.
All right. So, but the thing is,
that's
it's
like 1% of the people.
Usually a family member, so that you know that the person has a place to go. Mm-hmm. So when they get here, they go and live with a family member.
Right. That makes sense.
Right, and that makes sense. And how many
else,
people do you think that is?
I don't know, but I would guess that it's certainly less than 10% of the people who are coming through.
No. I mean, how many people come through the legal system, even if it takes 8, 9, 10 years? A year does our legal system accommodate for?
It's got to be in the tens of thousands.
No, it's like 1 million.
It's 1 million?
So
okay.
We already take in legally through the proper channels that we already have more people than any other country, than all of the other countries in the world. I mean, 0 people go to China. Right. 0 people go to Japan. So we already, with the system, take in more than everybody else in the world. So if your argument is we need to bring in that's not, 11, 12, 16, 32 million people a year. So even if you could crank the system, jack the system up, so you get more people coming through, how many exactly? What is the good number?
What is the number? What is the number? And then
pass
that as a law and do it properly. That's my thing. It's like I'm not opposed to people coming here from anywhere as long under certain circumstances.
All right, so
let's do it legally. Let's do it properly.
Right, and so at the turn of the century, when people came, we had a massive surge of people coming from another country. After World War I, then what happened?
We closed down immigration.
We almost shut it down completely for about 60 years.
That's right.
We said, all right, we need to let these people come in
and assimilate.
And these people didn't come in there and go, all right, most important thing to do is to preserve our own culture. The first thing that they did was say, we're not speaking Italian in the house.
Right.
The kids need to learn English.
That's a myth, too. I mean, there's a lot of myth to that. I mean, we had 5 German newspapers and 6 German schools in the city of Baltimore in the late 19th century.
That's true. That's true. But the idea of allowing this to settle in, so that we don't have generation after generation of
when they went to
German
school,
speaking
Right. You have a point.
So it can't go on. It can't go on indefinitely.
When they went to school, they spoke English.
Or unless they went to a German school.
Unless they went to a private school. That's right. Because the public schools were all speaking English. So the thing is, when we bring people into our country, there needs to be some level of assimilation into our culture, accepting our values, accepting the way what it means to be an American, all that kind of stuff. We can't be bringing in polygamists. We can't be bringing in people who think that it's okay.
Well, the Mormons got that already.
Well, exactly, and that's a good example because when Utah tried to join the Union, we said no.
Polygamy?
Because of polygamy. You have to get rid of polygamy before you can join the Union. Yeah. So now we have this situation.
Good for the U.S.
Well, now we have this situation where we're bringing in Muslims who believe in polygamy. We're bringing in other people who have,
And female genital mutilation.
Female genital
They
mutilation.
say, well, that's part of our culture.
Right.
Well, I don't care if it's part of your culture.
Okay, it's part of your culture, then go live there where it's part of your culture. That's your prerogative.
Right.
But we can't be bringing people in to the United States who are radically different than the culture and the laws and what
they can
we
be radically
value.
different as long as they're willing to get on board.
As long as they're willing to get on board with what it means. And the biggest problem with the whole thing is you're going to come into the United States, then okay, you should adopt what it means to be American. The problem is we don't know anymore what it means to be an American. We don't have any vision of what being an American means. These are just a whole bunch of people from who knows where coming in, radically changing the country. It's just
because stupid. Once you've now we've had to look to Europe. Europe's already going. You know what? This whole multiculturalism thing isn't working out so great.
Well, Britain is going to be Muslim in like 30 years.
Yeah. And all of them are going. Wait a minute.
If that's the way it's going to go, because I mean, we're assuming that the current children of the Muslims are going to be Muslims in a generation or two, and that's
the way things are
well, so
going.
far that's what it's looking like.
The way things are going,
it's
St. Paul's is going to not be a
it'll be
church
a mosque.
anymore. Yeah.
All right. Well, here, you want to shut this thing down?
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on. At least got to see the Babylon Bees take. Here we've got Ted Cruz goes out mutton chops in preparation for civil war. And in the story, the Southern Belles of Texas are lining up, donating their jewelry to be smelted down for razor wire. and then we've got Biden here. What is he?
Biden cleverly distracts from civil war by starting a world war.
Thank you very much, Babylon B.
All
We're
right.
lightening this up because the Xanax has not kicked in yet.
Yes. So I mean, I tried very hard not to lose my temper on this one, and I think I mostly did. But
you were great.
This is a topic that just makes my blood boil, and I can't stand it. But I don't know
it's
if
a
there's
crisis.
a solution. It is a crisis.
It's a crisis, but is the path forward passing something now that can be amended in the future, showing the American people that a bipartisan something can be moved forward?
Very
and
unlikely.
Because I tell you what,
nothing.
I mean, without bipartisanship, it ain't nothing going to happen except for mutton chops over there.
Yeah, I say. What you don't want is civil war in Texas.
No.
Because people are well armed.
That's right.
And it's the most dangerous state to live in.
All right. So
All right.
here's to no civil war.
Here's to no civil
All
war.
right. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.